Fear, unfortunately, is the weapon of choice of human beings. You need to address what you're scared of. And I think most people are scared of judgment. I think people would take much bigger happy risks if they weren't worried about people shitting on them. And usually their mom or dad, their siblings, their spouse. I mean, I watch people parent their children based on the opinions of their neighborhood. I would tell people to stop letting fear dictate their life.
As we all come out of the pandemic,
yes,
and a lot of things have changed,
yes,
some things have not.
Yes.
What have you seen kind of change? And you talked a little bit about earlier, that combination of passion and practicality.
Yes.
Kind of finding yourself and understanding the duality of it. How do you think COVID has impacted folks, and are we still coming through that kind of?
I mean, massively. Yeah. Massively. I mean, I can't wait for the documentaries and the movies and the books written about COVID on the human host effect. I think a lot of us realized we reconnected with our spouses or our parents or our kids, changed us forever. I think a lot of people started realizing we do a lot of silly things like travel for one meeting. You know, we've learned a lot. I think the other thing that happened was, let's not forget, this is just like real life. The governments around the world printed a lot of money. We had all sorts of stimulus checks in America, and people got confused. They got $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for free, and then they went out and bought Dom P or a Gucci bag, and that's all fine and dandy. The problem is right now, literally right now, we're on the other side of that, which is the economy's not as healthy. You know, you got to pay your debts, and you know, I think that is probably what I'm most fascinated by, which is people have found some of their passions: running, family, Friday night dinner, Sunday night dinner, music. They rekindled with it. But I think right now we're finding more of our practicality. You had people 24 months ago asking for a raise and wanting to work from home and not show up to the Zoom, and now they're getting fired. And they're like, what? And you're like, what do you mean, what? So I think we're calibrating back to practicality. So it's a fun thing to think about the next 5 years. I think we've gone through the ups and the downs, and I think we're gonna find that middle. Yeah. That's why I wrote Meet Me in the Middle. Yeah. I think everything is good if it's in balance. Work-life balance is great, but if you go all life and the business goes out of business, well then you're not gonna have life. And so on the flip side, I'm such a workaholic, I can tell you from personal experience and people around me, when you're all in on work, you sometimes pick up your head and you're like, wait a minute, I got my college buddies here, for example, who are my homies. But my 20s and 30s, they'll tell you they barely saw me. I was building. And we're at dinner late last night and they're telling stories and I wasn't there. One part of me is happy and proud I built something for my family. Another part of me is like, man, I could have went to that weekend. Like in hindsight, I could have went to Vegas for that weekend. And so balance is the key to life.
Definitely. Your parents are here.
Yes.
What were the values they instilled in you when you were growing up?
One of the reasons I like being a public figure is all the accolades I get aren't mine, they're theirs. Real talk. Like when you think about being a human being, like what did you do? Like, you had your DNA and then you had your parents, and the only other thing that gets any impact is your environment, your hood, right? What era you grew up in. And that's a person. So when I get all these nice accolades, I get happy because my parents killed it. I was born in the Soviet Union. When we came to America, I lived in a studio apartment smaller than the stage you and I are on right now, with 6 family members. I had nothing, but I had love in the house, and my mom made it so cozy. So I knew early on, money had no impact on happiness. And then my dad, he worked his face off every minute. That's where I got taught the work ethic, and my mom for that matter. So they taught me hard work. They taught me, you know, word is bond. They taught me like family over everything. My mom taught me all the soft skills. My dad taught me all the hard skills. So my mom taught me compassion and empathy and kindness. But my dad taught me, you know, hard work and no bullshit and no complaining and head down and bleed for it if you're doing it for your family. And so I'm an incredibly fortunate dude. And I would argue a lot of what I do with GaryVee and VaynerFriends is me scaling what they did for me.
Amazing, amazing. Talk a little bit about the new book you got, Meet Me in the Middle. It's an interesting way to tell a story.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a 2-sided book. Big shout out Manny Galan, who used to work at VFriends, kind of pitched me the idea because he knew that this whole world is pulling from opposite directions. So it's a kid's book that you can read from either side. So one side is Patient Pig story, and the other side is Eager Eagle story. And they're both going to play basketball. Patient Pig's just a little too patient, and that patience is the best. But if it becomes complacency, you lose. Eagerness is amazing. But if you're a little too eager, you get sloppy and you make mistakes. And you see the values of being eager and the values of being patient, and then they meet in the middle and help each other get a little to the middle. It's been very satisfying. I've gotten emails my whole life back to these books from grown-ups saying, you help my business, you help my family. This is the first time that I'm getting emails from parents saying, my kids have asked to read the book 10 nights in a row. That's a different kind of feeling.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. This fall, you've got cartoon animated series coming with the guys at Moonbot. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure, any parent here who's got a 1 to 10-year-old knows what Coco Melon is. And so the people that make Coco Melon, Moonbug, and I have teamed up for the VFriends cartoons. We just played the first ever public preview for 30 seconds on stage. I'm very excited about it. We focus on 6 core characters of our 250 plus characters in our world. And it's a big deal. I like I said on stage, if I don't figure out how to get people to fall in love with those characters, the reason everybody wants Skeletor is because I watched He-Man after school every day from 1984 to 1986, and now I love Skeletor. If you are unable to get people to fall in love with your characters, you will not build anything. And so the books matter, but there's nothing like YouTube Kids right now. That's the Nickelodeon of this era. That's the Saturday morning cartoons, after school cartoons for us, right? That's how we watched them. YouTube Kids is that now, and I know that I have to win on YouTube Kids, which is why I went to one of the most significant, animation production companies in the world, in Moonbug, and I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're a public figure. You're doing a lot of things. You work a ton. You also talk about wellness.
Yeah.
And the need for all of us.
Yeah.
How do you approach wellness for yourself?
Pretty easily. I do a ton because I like it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do this for the money. I don't do this for the fame. I do it because it's what I've done my whole life. I did flea markets when I was 13 and baseball card shows. I worked at my daddy's liquor store my whole life. I like working because I like working. The way people like golf or surfing. Like, for real, I just want to say this nice and slow. I like to build and work the way people like to go on vacation. So for me, it's easy to balance because I'm doing what I like, and then when I'm tired from doing something I like, I rest. I think that work balance and wellness comes in different forms. I've been good about passion and mental, but food and working out didn't come natural to me. Still doesn't, but I've gotten better at it the last 10 years because I want to live longer and happier. So that one is a perseverance through being comfortable with being uncomfortable, doing something that doesn't come natural to me. And that's something I think all of us have to develop as human beings. If you are unable to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's very unlikely you will achieve.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about the need for adversity.
I mean,
especially today.
We are ruining these children. Parents, you can't fight every fight for your kid. You can't yell at the teachers for giving them a B when you think they deserve an A. Like, this is why sports matters. Like, the parent can't run on the field and shoot the hoop, thank God. They try from the sidelines, but they can't. And so, I think adversity is the foundation of success. And I think we've lost our way in parenting the last 30 years of trying to eliminate adversity at all costs for our kids. And it's the great detrimental move of all time. And I hope we get away from it.
Yeah. We've all had failures in life.
Yeah.
What is one that you've had that's formed you, shaped you, that's made you a little bit better afterwards?
It's a crazy one because as a public figure, it's my strength, but in private, it's my weakness. I struggle with candor with people I know, with people I love. I kill it I can candor publicly like nobody's business. But like Dustin, who I care about, it's harder for me, to my mom, to my relationships, to my children. Candor is hard for me because I don't want to scare people or upset them, especially in the workplace. I really struggle with it. And I've had to really, in my mid 40s, 3-4 years ago, I had to kind of look myself in the mirror and say, look, I don't want to go to the grave being a hypocrite. I talk about fighting through, being accountable. I need to finally be accountable that this is my kryptonite. Like, I got real lucky. Most things work for me, but this was a real vulnerability. And I've really worked at it. And 7 years ago, if you asked me that question, I'm not answering candor because I was still avoiding it. And I gotta tell you, for anyone at home, because it doesn't come natural to a lot of us, when you start practicing it, it's good. Like, just like working out, like I like being able to lift heavier things than 10 years ago. I like being able to have candorous conversations now. And so it's really shaped the last 3-4 years of my life, and my life is better for it, and my companies are better for it, and my relationships are better for it.
VeeFriends is an example of a personal brand, CPG. You talked about this. Consumer packaged goods.
Yeah.
Why do you think that there's a larger kind of constellation now of personal brand CPGs that are...
The distribution of media and retail have been commoditized. Logan Paul and KSI didn't have the money to do television commercials and get Walmart distribution in 1994. Today they do. And so the cat's out of the bag. Human beings that build huge audiences will build the biggest coffee brands, Emma Chamberlain, the biggest vitamin water, drinks, Prime, the biggest chocolate brands, Feastables. I believe that I did Empathy Wines in 2017. So I did this 7 years ago, built and I sold that to Constellation Brands. It was a huge deal for me and my partners. I feel like we're the preview. I think in 15 years, many of the popcorns, sneakers, everything will be owned by the human being. They will be the face and the owner, not the spokesperson. Michael Jordan of the future will own the whole Jordan brand, not in collaboration with Nike, and we're on our way.
Does that level of personal connection and ownership create an added layer and level of sensitivity to make sure that everything is the way that it should be versus kind of a general
100%.
brand?
Of course.
Your personal.
Of course. Of course. Like, go look at what Charlie D'Amelio acts like for her popcorn versus when she's taking one quick photo for somebody else's lipstick. It's like children. I like all little kids. They're all cute. I love my children way more. That when it's your brand, it's your baby. When you're doing a brand deal, they're renting you. You're hooking up. When you own the brand, you're married. Different game.
Totally. Uno.
Yes.
If you could play with anyone, dead or alive.
Randy the Macho Man Savage.
Why? Tell us why.
He's one of the only people I grew up idolizing and loving that I never got to meet because he passed away. My career didn't get to that level where those things were afforded to me at the time, and I really am sad. I would have liked to thank him for so much happiness that he brought me. I hated Hulk Hogan when everybody liked him. I'm very like that. I didn't like Jordan because I was a Knicks fan when everyone liked them. But Hulk Hogan in 5th and 6th grade, every single person in my class loved Hulk Hogan. And so I just went the other way because I was always kind of that guy, and Macho Man was my guy. And the promos that he used to cut were crazy. And so he was just flamboyant. Plus Queen Elizabeth, like his manager, I feel like the first time I saw her was the first time I'm like, wait a minute, I might be becoming a man. And so he means a lot in my life, and I would have loved to give him a little reverse and draw 4 and see him react. Macho Man versus me in Uno would have been, I might recreate that in AI just because I need to feel it.
Yeah. It's amazing how much we are shaped by the experiences we have when we are in that range, like 8 to 14.
That's why I love your business. That's why I love your company. 7 to 15, 4 to 13. Some of us just grew up faster than others, like childhood range. But that moment where you're not a gaga goo-goo and you're not a grown-up, that middle, that childhood era, that shapes so much of your life. I'm so grateful that we all now live in an era where grown-ups can be kids. When we were growing up, you had to give up being a kid. Now Comic-Con and all this, it's so cool. And it's one of the reasons I think your company is having such an incredible resurgence, and I cheer for y'all. You have so many big IPs. Big Jim, I'd love to see that come back and give a little love.
Good conversations about that.
I would love to see Big Jim make a run back, and so yeah, it's a big factor in one's life.
All right. Leave us something today, a piece of advice for folks who are listening around the world.
The world is run by fear. Most people don't realize why politics is such a big part of our life, religion, parenting. Fear, unfortunately, is the weapon of choice of human beings. If you're listening right now, you need to address what you're scared of. You need to address what you're scared of. And I think most people are scared of judgment. I think people would take much bigger happy risks if they weren't worried about people shitting on them. And usually their mom or dad, their siblings, their spouse, or a couple of neighbors in the neighborhood. I mean, I watch people parent their children based on the opinions of their neighborhood. And so I would tell people to stop letting fear dictate their life.
Awesome. We'll leave it there.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Appreciate it.